Day. My name is Sarah Wentzel, and I am a Nimue educator from South Africa. So, welcome everyone to today's Nimue webinar. We are going to discuss the retinol and the pros and cons of it. So, with retinol being on the rise all the time within the industry, it is important that we discuss what it is first. Looking where it comes from, understanding the importance of it, that it plays in the skin as well as what it plays in the body. We also need to note the popularity of retinol and how it has also caused damage on the skin and how people are using it incorrectly because they do not have the education on how to use it and what it is for. So the first thing we need to start at before we even begin is to understand where retinol comes from. So retinol is a source from your vitamin A. So vitamin A is very widely known as a vitamin that helps in many different ways within the body and the skin. There's many different forms of it, and retinol is one of those forms. So a lot of people refer to your retinol or your as your vitamin A1. Now, when we look at what is your vitamin A, we need to understand first, it is a yellow primary alcohol derived from your carotene, and it is quite important for the maintenance of many parts of the body. So it is essential for the growth of the bones, the teeth, reproduction system, eyes, and your skin. So when it comes to the growth of the reproductive system and good vision, we always remember as we were young, and we probably tell our children this as well, is that when you eat your carrots, you can see properly in the dark. So it is for very good reason that they have said that. It contributes to the maintenance of the mucous membranes, such as your eyes and lungs and digestive system. It helps with healthy skin, normal functioning of the immune system, and development and maintenance of the bones and teeth. So it is a really important factor that we do bring it into our diets as well as our skincare, but we need to do it in a safe way too. So where or what is the vitamin A and what are the different sources that we have? So firstly, your vitamin A is a fat-soluble vitamin. So this is quite an important thing that we do need to understand because being a fat-soluble vitamin, it means it gets stored in the liver. Other fat-soluble vitamins that we have is your vitamin D, E, and K. Now, the first thing that happens when we have it, it is first then going to the lymph system, and then it is stored primarily into the liver and the adipose tissues. So this allows it, when it has been stored in the system, to be readily excreted to the body when needed. Now, humans as well as animals cannot make our own vitamin A. But we can obtain it from two different forms. So firstly, from your animal foods, which is known as your retinol, as well as your plant foods, so your carotenoids. Different plant sources that we can get your carotenes in. It is then converted into vitamin A in the body. And it's normally your orange, yellow, and green leafy vegetables. And then the different sources from our animals that we can get vitamin A, which is really great, is your eggs, milk, your cod liver oil, as well as even liver that we can then bring in. The problem is if you have a deficiency in your vitamin A, what we then also find from people is it can lead to night blindness, a sight or slight infection or deficiency of it can also lead to a susceptibility for children to get more infections in the body because it lowers that immune system. But then we come to another part where we then have too much in our bodies, and that can lead to toxicity. And excess during pregnancy can lead to risks of your birth defects. And that is why when we get to that part of the webinar and we discuss your Roaccutanes and those kind of medications to help with acne, how it is so important that the client is very cautious during this time. Large amounts can also lead to a lot of liver and bone disease or damage, and this is again because it gets stored within that liver. It can take a long time for it, if we get high doses, to actually leave the system because, as we said, it is a fat soluble, so it does get stored within the body. So looking at the conversion, and this is if we use a retinol either on the skin or we eat a plant source or animal source that has it. So when you first eat, let's say your carrot, this is known as your beta carotene. So your carrot, what happens is we eat it in the body. It then reaches your small intestine, which absorbs it, carotene. The next step is then when we start to see that it gets stored within the liver. And that storage or that type or form of vitamin A is then known as your retinol palmitate. The next thing is it needs to reach the cells. So when vitamin A is needed by the cells, so it is now at this point being stored in the liver as your retinol palmitate. But when it is needed by the cells, that retinol palmitate is then converted into retinol and transported through the bloodstream to the organs that need it at that time. Now, once that retinol reaches the organs or the tissue that it's needed, it's then converted back into retinol palmitate. The next source is while it is crossing over those cell membranes into the cell, it then gets converted into the retinol once more. And once inside the cell, it is then converted into retinoic acid. So the process is quite a large and long process. And it's really clever that the body is able to convert it in so many different ways in order for us to get it into where we need it. It's very similar that we have when we use it on the skin. So when we apply it to the skin, it then gets absorbed into the skin. And once it is then at that point of your fibroblast or keratinocyte cells, it gets converted into retinol palmitate. When it is crossing over the cells, it is then converted back into retinol. And then once in the cells, it gets converted back into your retinoic acid. And the retinoic acid is the one that is the most important because retinoic acid is the one that we want for cell to cell communication, longevity, renewal. So retinoic acid is an important process, but we cannot put that directly on the skin. And that is why the body is so clever that it's able to convert that vitamin A in the different steps. So looking at it, we have just discussed now eating, but we can get it in your supplementation as well. So if you look at your pregnancy medications or your different supplementation, it is really good to still get it in small doses due to contributing to that immune system of the skin. Another thing that it does is it helps to support and maintain our eyesight. Seen as a really good antioxidant, maintaining the health and structure of the skin, helping with increasing collagen production and helping with wound healing, as well as helping with those bones and teeth. So as an oral supplement, it has many, many different benefits for people, especially those who aren't able to always get it in the diet and need to get it into their body. If we have a limited access, that's where we then said it leads to measles, it can lead to eye diseases, it can lead to pancreatic diseases too. So if we take it for its antioxidant properties, we just need to also keep in mind that it may not offer the same benefits as recurring antioxidants in food. So it is important that we do discuss with our clients that we do bring it in supplementation and try and get it in a healthy diet too. Normally for adults, they recommend the amount of vitamin A is 900 micrograms. For men and for women, it is a little bit different as it varies. All right, so as vitamin A in supplementation, which we have just discussed, it is fat soluble. So as we said, it gets stored in the tissue, so specifically within that adipose tissue as well as the liver. And the body then having it stored in the body, it does then have access to it when it needs it. So it is really clever. It is easier to absorb more fat-soluble vitamins than the body requires, so that they then store. So it is easier for us to do that. And then most of it, like we said, is stored within the liver. And as we mentioned, it gets stored in the liver as your retinol palmitate or retinol esters. Okay, so this is where we then discussed, or I said a little bit earlier, when it comes to treating your medications or treating your acne conditions. So we've had really big successes when it comes to your isotretinoin, so your different Accutanes, just to try and treat your acne skins. Lots and lots of success. However, it has been known to be prescribed incorrectly. Especially here in South Africa, we have had quite a lot of cases where we've seen incorrect ones, and clients still present with a lot of long-term issues that they have received due to taking these medications. So a while back, our doctors, dermatologists, would generally just prescribe this for anybody. So if you had an acne breakout, they would immediately prescribe your Reaccutane. These are more for your grade 4 acne, very, very cystic acne. But a lot of our young clients, a lot of our adults were taking it as just to help with different little breakouts. The problem with this is it has a lot of dangerous side effects. So it is meant to be prescribed as your cystic acne medication. What we did see was long ago they would prescribe a very high dose over a shorter period of time. And what would end up happening is it would clear, but the patient would have to probably go on another couple doses because it was too much too soon. What we have started to see now is a lot of our clients are now taking a smaller amount over a longer period of time, which is more beneficial. So normally when it comes to this, we can't treat our patients or clients with, if they are on isotretinoin with our normal alpha hydroxy acids. We then instead need to maybe look more at your sensitive range. And since the launch of the new products in the sensitive range, we have seen such amazing results. So when we go on to the isotretinoin, it is important the clients understand the common side effects of it. So what normally happens is more in 1 in 100 people, there are things that we can do to help cope. But a lot of the time when we take these medications, we start to see very dry eyes, dry skin, nose, and lips. Other problems can cause itching, dry mouth, dry throat, sore head. We can see backache. We get different pains in the muscles and joints, and it's all because it is drying up that body. The serious side effects, however, can be rare but will happen. And this is if people start taking, you'll start to see you get more unexplained bruising. This is more severe. They might bleed a lot easier and might even get signs of a blood clotting disorder. Frequent infections, or they last a lot longer. They feel weak, they feel dizzy, they possibly have more of that pale skin. And then we start to see another really worrying side effect when it comes to this medication: anxiety, aggression, depression, mood changes in the clients. And this can then lead to that mental health problem. So it is not something that should just get recommended or prescribed to just anyone. We really need to make sure now doctors or dermatologists should be testing blood, doing blood tests as often as possible to make sure that it is not creating any of these issues, especially within the body. Okay, so let's look at what is your retinoids and what is vitamin A within skincare. So Nimue, as we know, has been using vitamin A for quite some time. We then also had your retinol, and quite recently we launched our retinol. So we are going to discuss a little bit of all of that within this webinar. But retinoids are there, or compounds of chemically related to your vitamin A. So they play a really big role within that cell growth and differentiation. So the different types of families comprise of your adapalene. So you might remember the adapalene. It might come as an ingredient that sounds quite present. We have your retinol, which is an alcohol form, your tretinoin, which is your retinoic acid. So there are so many different forms that comprise, or the retinoid family comprises on from the retin or vitamin A at least. So when we look at that vitamin A and how it is so important to skincare, we've got general reactions or actions that we need to look at. So it is very important because it helps with that cell turnover. And I think when I do get a lot of the therapists in training and I tell them there's retinol in our purifying products, they all look at me a little bit strangely, but it's because we know that retinol being in the skincare products, it does assist with that, or at least within your acne products, it does assist with that cell renewal. And as we know, with your acne skins, they tend to hold on to a lot of dead skin. So it helps with that renewal, desquamating that dead old skin off and bringing up the healthy layers. Another big one, especially now for our aging clients or for prevention, is that we have more of your collagen production and thickening of your dermis. It has quite a big impact on your pigmentation. Excuse me. So with hyperpigmentation, we are seeing results where it's removing that damaged layer, bringing up the healthy layers. So it helps to bring that pigment up to the surface. With regards to increasing collagen, we then see less fine lines. We see a huge improvement on texture and acne on the skin. But this is again to try and explain to clients, we need to use it in moderation. So we are seeing a lot more clients that are going to the pharmacies and create or collecting over-the-counter Retin-A's. Or they will go and buy over-the-counter cosmetic products with retinol, and these tend to sit more on the surface and dry the skin. So it's all about trying to educate the clients as to why we should be using it or using correct kinds, especially those that are encapsulated and those that are safe for the skin and used in professional skincare products. All right, so the retinoid action on aging, it helps to create that collagen synthesis. We've just discussed that, and then it helps to inhibit your matrix metal proteinases. So if you can remember the matrix metal proteinases, those are your collagenase and elastase that break down collagen and elastin. So these help to inhibit, or your retinoid actions help with inhibiting that. We then have an increase of your different types of collagen. So if you do your different, looking at your different types, these are the most important types for the skin. And it helps to restructure those collagen bundles because generally those collagen bundles, as we get a bit older, they become weaker, they're more fragile. So we're getting restructuring of them to create more of that strength in them. And by doing all of this, we're helping to reduce fine lines and wrinkles in the skin. When we look at your texture, we know that this, by doing your proliferation of increasing your epidermal, we're creating healthier cells, but we are increasing that differentiation. We're increasing the filigree expression. So if you can remember from your anatomy, your filigree is, I always almost want to explain it as a sponge. So if you put a sponge in water, it always expands. And then as soon as you, because it soaks it all up and it holds it. As soon as you remove that water or that sponge from the water, the sponge then shrinks and dries out. And that's exactly what's happening in the skin. So within our epidermis, within the stratum corneum, there is something with the filigree. And what happens is the water from the natural processing step where the water comes in, natural moisturizing factor, that's the word I was looking for, draws the water in. And then the filigree will sit with that within those lamellar bodies and hold in that water. It needs to keep it healthy because as soon as we've got that water, that sponge then swells and we then have that hydration within the skin. So it really does help with that process. When we discussed your proliferation, it increases the number of cells within the skin, giving a good balance of that cell division. So that if we do have cell death or cell loss, at least we are using that in order to improve on that. What we then see is we then have the thinning of the dead skin layer, so removal of the dead skin layer, but improvement on the smoothness of the skin as well as your barrier function, because we're also then holding in a lot more of that water. Okay, as discussed, it is safe, if used correctly, to use within your hyperpigmentation too. So with the tyrosinase activity, that is definitely something we do need to decrease. As we know, we don't want to completely stop hyperpigmentation, or at least stop our melanocyte cell from working. But we do need to stop that activity when it comes into overdrive. So we want to stop that melanosome transfer, that melanin content we need to bring down and enhance desquamation. So desquamation, as we get older, it is our self-cleansing mechanism, but it does slow down. So it is something we do definitely need to assist with. We reduce the size of the melanocyte cells, the Golgi apparatus, and that just assists again with regards to bringing it down and calming it down. And overall, we are going to see that improvement on hyperpigmentation. And then, of course, for acne. So That's where I said earlier, I get a lot of the therapists that have maybe just come out of college or not too sure, and they don't understand why we use it for acne purposes. But it's because we can increase that desquamation. So we're removing that dead skin, which is blocking the pores, which helps to decrease that hyperkeratosis, unclogging those pores and clearing out that impaction on the skin. So it takes away or provides oxygen to those follicles, so then we stop creating more of that propionibacteria. And by doing that, we see less of your pustules and your papules. And then we start to see that it also acts as a comedolytic agent, so softens and helps to bring out those comedones in the skin. So it controls that bacteria on the skin. So having said all of this, and I have mentioned it just now as well, but we have many benefits that we can get from your vitamin A. It helps with the immune system, it helps with strong teeth and bones, it helps with the skin, with hyperpigmentation, with aging, with acne. So it's got many, many benefits, but we still can have negative side effects if used incorrectly or if using the wrong form. So your clients might present with these kind of effects, your redness, your sensitivity, photosensitivity, especially if they're using it during the day and they're not wearing SPF. It has become a very, very big deal within the industry, and a lot of people tend to self-prescribe, which we really just don't like. Um, it is becoming more and more difficult, and you'll often find that a client will come and say they're using the Nimue products or they're using this, but they've also got their retinol that they got from the pharmacy. It is a phenomenal ingredient, but it needs to be used correctly. And that is where we, as professional therapists, come in, where we can provide that education in order to tell them what it is important and how to use it with care, and how it is something that should only be brought in when you start improving on the barrier and improving on the health of that skin. So let's look at the difference, because we went through the conversion steps and I said you're going to use a retinol, but at the end of the day, we want that retinol to convert into retinoic acid. So looking at the difference of it, retinol versus retinoic acid, they all have similar actions. Some are faster than others, absorbed into the skin, or faster action. But then we were saying your retinol is a bit safer than retinoic acid because your retinoic acid is a little bit harsher. And that's why we don't want to put that directly on the skin. So looking at the different ones, your retinol is very available to your consumers. It can be in cosmeceutical as well as dermocosmeceutical skin brands. However, we're seeing quite a lot of your cosmetic brands saying or highlighting how they have certain percentages of retinol in their product, whereas retinoic acid is more prescription. The action of your retinol increases and exfoliates, so increases cell turnover, same as your retinoic acid. The time frame, so with retinol, it is a slower approach. Remember, we said you put retinol on the skin and it has to go through so many processes in order to turn into your retinoic acid. Whereas if we put retinoic acid straight on, it is a very aggressive approach within the skin and can cause a lot of side effects, especially if overused and used incorrectly. Whereas retinol has less severe side effects, especially when used correctly on the skin. So obviously your retinol is not as strong as your retinoic acid. Your retinoic acid is 20 times stronger, but it is a lot more harsh. And when it comes to absorption, your retinol is fastly absorbed, but still needs to get converted. Whereas your retinoic acid goes straight in as retinoic acid, fastly absorbed, fast action, but then we have the side effects on the skin. And these are things that we don't want to see. So as we remember, your retinol is your form of vitamin A. It is both an antioxidant and a cell communicator. So it just helps further, and it helps to trigger those glycosaminoglycans in the skin. It helps with proliferation and elastin in the skin and giving more thickness in the skin. So it really is a very important ingredient. So with Nimue, as we remember from your education, we make use of an encapsulated retinol. So we have that form of encapsulated retinol in your purifier, your purifying range, and it is a nice gradual approach with cumulative effects. If you've seen your clients go on that range, you'll see it doesn't dry out the skin, but we see phenomenal improvements on your acne skins. So we do not want to create any side effects. We want that encapsulation to go into the skin in order to get that maximum stimulation without that irritation. And for those of us that have used it and seen it on an acne skin, we can see that those results are present. It's gentle, it still keeps the skin healthy, but at the same time, it is going to make sure that we do not get that downtime. So topical absorption, just as a recap, we discussed a little bit earlier, is we get the topical absorption. When the retinol reaches the dermis or epidermis, it is converted into your retinol palmitate. Then we know that is the only way it needs to be in that form in order to enter into your keratinocyte cells and fibroblasts. As it's entering them, what ends up happening is it is then converted back into retinol once more, and once back in the cell or in the cell, it gets converted into retinoic acid. So very similar to the process where we eat it in a form of a diet, this is then through the skin. And then looking at it, so this is how Nimue is able to get it into the skin without causing any irritation on the surface because we make use of delivery systems. So we use delivery systems with it because it is a very chemically unstable ingredient. So by just putting it into an encapsulation, already we help with that stability, we help with that calming of that ingredient, but we help with that increased penetration of it and getting it through the cell walls effectively without causing any danger. So looking at, we've got your microencapsulation. For those of us that have done the Nimue education, you'll remember all the different delivery systems. So as remember, you might remember we have the 10 of them. And obviously we have to have different forms of delivery systems because ingredients differ. Some need stability, some need extension of shelf life, some need protection. Some are oil soluble, some are water soluble, some are larger than others. So it is the process by which active ingredients like your retinol enclose in your microscopic particles. So I always think of it as like a tablet that you take in the morning. It's got a little capsule around it. So when you drink it, it dissolves and puts that vitamin into the system. So it is biodegraded by the skin's natural enzymes, and that is when your retinol gets released into the skin. So it's there to protect it against that oxygen and light so it doesn't oxidize, but also release it for safer and longer periods of time. Another one that we make use of, and it's something that you might have heard or remember, is your cyclodextrin. So cyclodextrins, they quite a fascinating one. It is circles made up of glucomolecules, and they have a complex chain or compounds entrapping that molecule inside. What's quite amazing is that when we apply this, the actual cyclodextrin delivery system doesn't penetrate into the skin, but it allows for penetration of the active ingredient, protecting it, directing it, or depositing it directly into the skin without causing irritation. And one thing what's great about that one is it allows for greater bioavailability. It releases directly in its purest form, but it is slower release without causing that irritation. And why I do love the cyclodextrin system is because when it's applied, it allows for that retinol to then go into the skin. But what also assists is when you remove or cleanse off that cyclodextrin system, what it does is it sweeps away the excess sebum, and that leaves that nice mattifying appearance on the skin. So now we've looked at what is retinol versus retinoic acid. But another big one is with Nimue that we've just launched our retinol. We need to then discuss what is the difference between retinol versus retinol. So retinol versus retinol. When it comes to retinol, we went through the different processes. It has to go through a few processes in order to change into retinoic acid, whereas your retinol converts straight into retinoic acid within one step. With regards to strength, your retinol is stronger, but in the form in which Nimue makes use of it, we really make use or make sure it is in a very safe way with quicker results, and it is the results or the side effects are less severe if used correctly. So it is quite similar, but it goes into the skin a lot quicker. And we started to see really great results with regards to our new Retinol Power Plus serum. Um, I know with regards to Jackie being head of R&D, everyone would say they want a retinol for aging. And Jackie just felt at that point there were so many different types of products out there with retinol. We were waiting for the next best thing, and that is when the retinol came along. We did lots of testing, as we always do with Nimue, making sure that we give you the best of the best, and that's when we came up with our Retinol Power Plus serum. So with Nimue, we do make quite a bit of use when it comes to retinol, your vitamin A, and now your Retinol Power Plus serum. And what's great with that and the right rationale for using it, we'll go through, but it's got two different types of vitamin A, your retinol and your proadapalene. But what I love about this serum is not only are we working on that aging, it does assist further with a bit of hyperpigmentation, but it's got ingredients like your squalane that help with your barrier. It's got your neurotransmission inhibitor, which helps to cool and soothe the skin. And then we've got a different delivery system, your vegan deep delivery system. So this product is packed full of absolutely phenomenal ingredients, and we are seeing really great results. It's gentle enough to use every day, or at least every night. So looking at the difference of why or what was the rationale behind using it is that we wanted to use, they're both retinoids, but they're not the same. So yes, we have your retinol, but in different form for your acne skins. But the difference is the chemical structure and the reactional interaction with the skin. So remember we said your retinol only converts once to become retinoic acid. So it's much quicker, which means it brings results quicker to the skin. And your retinol is actually better tolerated with fewer side effects to the skin. And we are able to, as therapists, prescribe lower concentrations. So with the smart vitamin A combination, as we saw in those ingredients, we make use of retinol and proadapalene. And that is being backed by your science as well as anti-aging benefits. We have a low risk without creating any irritation on the skin. And what's great, I said, we have your squalane in there as well as your nicotinamide. So it helps, or niacinamide, in order to remove that sensitivity from it and reduces potential dryness and irritation, but giving the best of that efficacy, increasing the results on the skin. So as we said, we've got your retinol, which is a precursor of your retinoic acid, getting quicker results, creating more firmness, elasticity, collagen, hydration. It is a really great ingredient and serum dropped by Nimue. Our other ingredient, we said, a proadapalene, also a precursor, but more stable form of a retinoid. It is a lot more gentle on the skin. So using them in combination with each other, we see really great results, targeting inflammation in the skin, which is further going to assist with regards to protecting that skin from creating any irritation. And then, as we mentioned, we do have that encapsulation because, again, it is still forms of retinoids or vitamin A. So we do need to create encapsulation, and it also stops those two ingredients from breaking down. So we want to make sure that we put a certain amount in that encapsulation so it doesn't break down. So when it does get to the cells, it has the correct efficacy and potency without losing any of that efficacy. It allows for the Power Plus serum having that delivery system to work in both oil and water-based barriers within the skin, and it is suitable to be used ongoing for our skin. So this is the vegan deep delivery system, and we always joke about the word. It does sound a little bit strange, vegan deep, but it is more advanced liposome technology. So it is composed of more phospholipids. So once again, really great to assist with the barrier, but at the same time, getting that ingredient into the skin safely and in a stable way. So what's nice about this is it allows for 20 times more of that penetration within the skin, giving longer lasting results and not creating that irritation. So this is what I've always loved with Nimue, is that we're always making sure that whatever we do, it's in the best way, getting that product into the skin in a safe way, without causing irritation. And we test and we test and we test before we release it. So a lot of us at the office, in head office in South Africa, excuse me, we get used as guinea pigs. And it is quite fun some of the time, and other of the time we are the ones that have to tell the lab, this is not right, this didn't feel good on my skin, I had a reaction to this. So when it does get to you, we are able to then give you the best. So with that prodapolene in the delivery system, it helps to assist with biotransformation with the skin's own enzyme in order to break it down and release it into the skin. So all this technology is phenomenal, and it's so important to try and explain to clients. They might put the cream on tonight and then they go to bed, but they don't realize all of the stuff that is happening under the skin while they're sleeping at night or after treatment. So that's when we come to the comparison, and this is a very big thing because we have a lot of clients that want percentages, and we have a lot of clients that want to know what is the difference between this retinol versus that retinol. But you can't compare, and this is something where Jackie comes up with. You cannot even compare apples with apples. You get so many different forms of apples, colors, all of that. It's the same with your retinols and retinols. It's the same with your vitamin C's. You cannot compare. It has a lot to do with your pH levels. It's a lot to do with your concentrations. It's got a lot to do with your formulations. So we don't ever give out percentages. So no, you cannot compare apples with apples, same as you cannot compare retinols with retinols, vitamin C's with vitamin C's. You cannot. So a percentage claim gives no indication of the efficacy at all. Nimue focuses on the effective, stable delivery device, and those are our delivery systems, which we discussed earlier. So we make use of the purest forms and grades of those ingredients coming from all over the world. As you know, we do not place our focus on how much of the ingredient we use, but how effectively we deliver it into the skin without causing irritation. So often the percentage is very much misunderstood because a lot of the time it can say it's got a 1%, but once it actually gets into that formulation, it already loses efficacy. So the same goes for ingredients such as vitamin C, your salicylic acid. We cannot compare those percentages. And often we get clients that ask us, and we just have to give them this kind of story where even though it might say this one's got 1% or that one's got 2%, they might be completely different products because of the way they are used, what type of raw material we use, what type of delivery system we use, the pH of the product, is it water, oil? It's got a lot to do with that. So as we know, one of our biggest principles is rejuvenation within Nimue. And rejuvenation is the one where we want to make sure, I always say to the therapist, is we want to almost break down that damaged brick wall and rebuild it. So our vitamin A ester, our retinol palmitate, as mentioned, you'll see it in quite a few of our products. It is very much focusing on retinol, or at least on rejuvenation. So it is going to help repair. What I love about it, it is slower. It takes a little bit longer to work, but it has longer lasting results. So it doesn't create irritation on the skin. It's going to last longer in the skin, and it helps with regards to cell renewal, keratinization. It helps with glycosaminoglycans. It is a phenomenal ingredient within the skin. So you'll see if you look at the back of some of our packaging, it will tell you where or what kind or where you would find the vitamin A. And then, of course, we have discussed our encapsulated retinol. Remember, finding it in your purifier, in your purifying range. So we really do see advanced rejuvenation. It helps with inflammation. It helps with free radical scavenging. It really assists the skin with healing. And I see such great results when it comes to Nimue and your acne. And then we launched the Retinol Superfluid. So this is still very popular. As you remember, your superfluids are in our skincare as your customization. And this one is used as a free radical scavenger. It is used to help with aging. It's helping a bit with pigmentation, hyaluronic acid. So at the end of the day, the different forms we are using are all very similar in helping the skin in different ways, but it's healing, it's anti-inflammatory, it's hydration. And that is the different forms that we have. We obviously then discussed our new Retinol Power Plus Serum too, but we do have quite a few variations of the products that we make use of in the skin. With Nimue, we remember we do everything in a safe manner. We want to make sure that we give you the best, and we have lots of different options. So it is quite a lot of information to take in one day, but it really is a very interesting one, and I don't think we are going to see the end of this. It is something that we can definitely work more on, or something that we can add more to, because as we know, the industry changes so often. There's more and more things coming out. There'll be an even better form of it at one point that's going to be coming out. So it is something that we are constantly looking at, something that we constantly playing with. But we're seeing great results with what we use within our Nimue range. We are very proud of it, and I'm sure you are as well. And we also thank you all for your support. We would love some more feedback. I would love from Australia to know how the Power Plus serum is going there. But this is all we have for today, and just to know the pros and cons. So at the end of the day, your pros and your cons can outweigh you. If we use it correctly and we educate our clients correctly, we really are going to see the results. It's the problem comes when the clients are going to so many different places and getting different products, and they're trying different forms, and they're using more cosmetics. We need to start with that education. So I really hope that this really was informative. I hope that you can take away from it. If you do have any questions, you are more than welcome to contact myself, or you're welcome to then contact the amazing team in Australia. Um, I would love to come and visit you guys soon again. Love Australia. But thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it did help a little bit more to understand the differences between it and what all of it means within the industry. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for all of your time.